Hello there. I'm Scotty. You're not. So I recently over the weekend finished season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow with my son. So we're gonna talk about that. Like I said, as we go along and as we finish them, I will talk about them. I took a little, I didn't do it right away because I did Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom because we saw that over the weekend as well. But season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow is, I think, when Legends starts to find its footing. The first two seasons, especially the first season, were very much trying to follow in the footsteps of Flash and Arrow in being, you know, these uh, comic book TV shows with comic book villains. The first season is a comic book villain, Vandal Savage. He's the villain. The second season's villain, the Legion of Doom, also comic book villains. So in season 3, they kind of break that mold and they introduce an original villain character named Malice, voiced by John Noble, which is fantastic. You don't see a lot of it. They bring back Damien Dark, and they bring in Damien Dark's daughter, Nora, and they just hold on. The DVD should be around here somewhere. It's over here. That one. There's one episode I want to talk about. Or which episode it was. It's the best episode of. Could be the best episode of the series on here. It's not Return of the Mac. Is it People of the God of War? I think it's the Elvis one. Is the best episode. I think. But it's just a good episode. It's a good episode. I think yeah, the Elvis one. Amazing Grace. It's a good episode. But so while the first one was trying to find Vandal Savage through time, the second season's gimmick was they're trying to stop aberrations, things from being changed in the timeline. Now for season 3, they're trying to stop what are they called? Anachronisms. That is people or things falling through time and landing where they shouldn't be. Because the beginning of the season picks up where the end of the last one left off with dinosaurs in Los Angeles and Big Ben, which they never explain. There's really no items that they ever have to get rid of, but Big Ben is also there, so I don't know. But back, and we find out that after Rip Hunter left, he had so he's technically not a legend anymore, but he created the Time Bureau, and somehow not the top head of the company. He has to report to Director Bennett, who is this Japanese guy you've seen in a lot of things. I don't know the actor's name. It's not Francois Chow like I thought it was. From like Lost and Ninja Turtles 2. You see the guy, you would know you've seen him before. Director Bennett is the character's name. But yeah, so the Time Bureau is now a thing, and they're taking care of these anachronisms. The legends are essentially retired. That is till Mick, finally getting his chance to go to Aruba, runs into, of all people, Julius Caesar. And the legends decide they want to put him back, but the Time Bureau says, no, we'll do it. But, the legends, no, we're going to do it, and it, yeah. So we find out that some things between seasons changed. Amaya left Nate. Nate is now working with the Kid Flash because if you remember at this point, this will be around the time that season 4, the Flash was going to start, and Flash was not there. The Flash was in the Speed Force. So Barry was, so Wally was the Flash of Central City, and and Nate sort of teams with him. But we find that Amaya went back to Zambezi, and but she ends up coming back to the group, and so their romance is just kind of thrown together again, because they come back and they show that it seems like for like half of the episodes that they don't really have anything to do, and then all of a sudden, around the time of the Here I Go Again, Daddy Darkest, Here I Go Again, around that time is when they just, we hooked up on a mission, and it's like, but there was no hint that they were even thinking of getting back together. They just, I don't know. Maybe they realized, hey, we're not doing anything with these, and we need to set up something so that the end of the season would mean something. Yeah. And of course, Amaya is struggling with the fact that, she will eventually need to go back, but she wants to stop from happening. She finds out her daughter refused to take the totem, and that's why they failed. That does lead to the finale, so we'll kind of, go with that. This season introduces and brings back characters. We introduced 2 new characters. Ava Sharp, played by Jess McCallan, who we find out later in the season is a clone. She becomes a love interest for Sarah, but at first they're kind of butting heads with each other because she's always the one that has to tell the Legends no and all that. And of course there is Gary Green, who is a comedic character, one of my favorite side characters. And of course, the greatest side character to ever be in a TV show ever, the great and powerful Bebo. I joke you not. Bebo, yes. He is the stuffed plush doll that shows up in the episode Bebo, the God of War. I didn't even look at the right one. Bebo, the God of War, which is the Christmas episode, which is also a good episode, because it not only is a Christmas episode, but it's dealing with the trauma of losing Dr. Martin Stein. If you remember correctly, he dies in the Crisis on Earth as crossover, so this is kind of finishing that story, because not only does Bebo crash in Finland, in the Americas during the time of the Vikings, Leif Erikson, or whatever it is, Eric the Red, Leif Erikson, I think, and his sister, played by Ichabod Crane's wife from Sleepy Hollow, the show, not the movie. It's not Christina Ricci. It's Katrina something. Maybe Katrina is the character's name. I don't know. But she, yeah. So, but not only does Bebo fall out of the sky and land there, but the younger version of Martin Stein that we've seen in the last couple of seasons. And so they're kind of dealing with that, and Jax tries to do the Back to the Future thing, which is funny considering season 4, by getting him a note, but he burned the note as soon as he got home because he doesn't want to learn about his future. And, on one hand, you kind of want to, but he does bring little Lily, Bebo, which means that she meets Jefferson before he's supposed to first meet her in season 2. It's a little confusing. They all meet him together, but somehow it all seems to work out the same. I thought, because they introduced a new brain library thing, so I thought Jax was going to show up, give her the Bebo, and erase their memories so that they wouldn't remember them. But that doesn't happen. And then Jax leaves the group. He comes back in the finale. The finale is probably one of the best finales, I think. Because you have a bunch of allies coming in to help. I thought it's more than I thought it was going to be. I remember Jax. That's all I could remember. But you got Jonah Hex. You got Helen of Troy, who shows up in the episode Helen Hunt. Do you get it? Do you get it? Because they're hunting for Helen of Troy in classic 1930s Hollywood. And, because she caused... The whole Trojan War was caused because of her. So, they going back to stop it from happening to 1930s Hollywood, because they want to make her a star like Marilyn Monroe, but at the price of Hedy Lamarr, who would go on to be in the Birds, and is a childhood crush of Martin Stein. But she comes to the aid, and another version of Kuwasa, which is the other granddaughter of Amaya, the sister of Mari McCabe, whatever her name is, the vixen in modern time. That's why she went back, so her granddaughter can fight. And I'm confused because she's wearing a vixen armor. I don't know. And I was assumed that Kuwasa from modern time was dead because Malice brings her back as some sort of water creature. We don't know. The whole thing also is that they're trying to get the totems, which leads to pirates while trying to get the earth totem. Kuwasa's got the water totem. They eventually get that. Thanks to Damien Dark, of all people. There's the fire totem, which you remember from the Vixen movie, if you've seen it, was destroyed and is in a museum, but Damien Dark steals it, and then he has to have Ray help him. He uses cold fusion, which they act like isn't a thing, but isn't that how Firestorm was born? Cold fusion? I swear. I don't know. But they use that to fix the fire totem, which Mick gets, of course. And then, so we got Earth, Wind, which is Zari's totem. Fire, Mick takes that. Earth, Wind, Fire, and Air, which is the same thing. Earth, Wind, Fire, Water, Spirit, which is Maya's totem, and then you have the sixth totem, which is unknown because they didn't know what it was. They found out it's from a sixth tribe of Zambezi, who actually, the reason that they didn't know what it is, it's the death totem, which we find out, which is a pretty interesting way to go. They could have gone with, it's lightning totem, or it's ice totem or something like that. Something kind of stupid, but it's death. Power over the dead, which, but that sixth tribe of Zambezi did not go against Malice, which is why they're only able to capture it and not destroy it. So, with all six and Sarah commanding the death totem, they're able to put together to form their champion. Back to that in a second. There's some interesting things with Sarah and that death totem because, she died before. And so is Damien, so they can both kind of control it. And Damien realizes that if Malice is freed, his daughter will die. So he decides to side with the Legends. But they decide that they're going to let the Anachronism happen so that Malice can be freed and they can fight him when he's free so they can destroy him, get rid of him. Damien Dark doesn't like that idea, so he lets Grodd go. Yeah, Grodd shows up during the Vietnam War, where we also see a younger version of Mick's father. Yeah, there's an ancestor of Dr. Stein, Professor Stein's during the Return of the Mac episode, which is also a decent episode. Jack the Ripper. I'm a fan of the legend, not of Jack the Ripper. You know what I mean. I don't like the person itself, just the legend of that kind of legend. I've talked about it in my Time Cop TV series review. They have that. I like how they handled that. And yes, they do play the song by Mark Morrison. Turn up the Mac. Return of the Mac. Oh my God. Return up the Mac. And here I go. Return. Do play it. And a cool. First of all, it's playing on a. It's a watch. It's a smartwatch created by Palmertech. It's a Palmertech smartwatch that was found in 1897 on the corpse that fell. The corpse turns out to be Damien Dark. And then he's like, where's my watch? When he's brought back. And then this little fight scene between it's Damien and his followers, Malice's followers, versus the Time Bureau because Rip has stuck the Legends in Because for some reason, Gideon still keeps following his instructions, even though by now he's not the captain, but I guess Weiss had itch. So you have this little thing where they played the song a little bit. And turn up the Mac. So it's a fun little sequence. And this is with that episode is where it's, okay, we're getting into what Legends is. And a lot of people criticize that. They're like, okay, Legends starting to get goofy. It's around season 3 that happens. But that's where they find their footing. I think that's where they belong. Because, watching the first 2 seasons, they're good. But I'm sitting there also thinking, this is not the Legends that I love. You get to season 3, this is it, baby. This is it. And then we're getting, my son and I have already started watching season 4. And yeah, we're getting into the nitty gritty of the stuff that makes the Legends. It works. It works. It bloody works. But, yeah. And so at the end, big battle, in the Old West is where we have this fight. Right? And so you have Jonah Hex. And you have, another version of Kawasa. And Jax is there. And Helen of Troy, I almost said Helen of Troy is there. And so they're all fighting together. And there is a nod when Zarya decides not to send Helen back to Troy. But instead, she puts her on the mascara. So now she's a trained Amazon warrior. And my son's like, she can fight. I'm like, she trained with the Amazons, remember? Oh, yeah. And then they were describing it, and I said, so where do we know an island of women trained to fight? And he's like, Wonder Woman. I'm like, yes. Sorry, when you talk, you drink. Betty, good. Because it's the berry flavored Skittles juice packets. So like I said, they use the totems together to form a champion, and their champion is Bebo. I kid you not. It is Bebo. Bebo Hungry. Yeah. Big CGI Bebo fighting big CGI monster. And yes, you don't get to see a lot of Malice until the end because it's a big CGI creature, so they're going to wait to show it, spend their money until the end, which is, Legends was the most expensive show to do, which is kind of why seasons 6 and 7 are a little less. In season 7, I think they're mostly in one time because of budget. So, because I haven't told my son that yet. Because he likes the time travel stuff and all that. But by the end, Amaya does go back to Zambezi. She says she has to. And the others, they go the separate ways from her. Not completely separate, but, And they finally get to go to Aruba and relax. And then Gary shows up just like Constantine. Only for Constantine to then show up and drop Dragon's head in front of it. Well, I think another good episode is the episode with Constantine. It has the dark horror kind of vibes that I like, where Constantine shows up, asks for Sarah's help because the demon asked for Sarah by name. I like it. It's the episode right after the Bebo one, because Jax leaves, she comes back on the ship, and he's like standing there. She's like, "Hello, John. I need your help, Sarah. A demon has called out your name." And there's this little girl named Emily, where they find out is a little version of Nora Dark. And I like when Zarya's like, that little girl, it's Nora friggin' Dark. And I'm sorry, the worst thing about this is that she's clearly wearing a wig. I mean, you cannot tell me that's her actual hair. And that is a wig. I'm just saying. But it is a pretty great episode, even though it ends with Damien Dark taking his daughter. And that kind of leads, He's like, the worst thing I ever did. Because he sacrifices himself to save her. He goes back in time. Back in time. And he sacrifices himself. He puts malice into him instead of her. And then his Ray uses the anti-magic gun that they have. And then he puts the malice into her. Into him. Excuse me. And then Ray gives her father's time stone. That time stone does come back in Armageddon, but it's not the same one. It is the same one, but not from this universe. You know what I'm saying? But, and we do find out in season 4 that she escaped. So, yeah, but it does leave on the cliffhanger with the dragon. And with season 4, Magic, when they released Malice, he wasn't the only thing that came out of the cage. There was other magical creatures, and so that's going to lead into the next season, which is cool. Magical creatures are my thing. So, all in all, season 3 is a pretty good season. I think it's where Legends starts to get its footing in finding out its identity and what it is. Where they were trying to make the first 2 seasons too much like the superhero shows that were on, and I think if they didn't deviate, I think it would just been another one like them, and I don't think it would have lasted as long as it did. And I know some people complain about the goofiness of the show, but hey, it lasted longer than people thought it did. People were like, oh, it can only last like 5 seasons, right? 7. So, and I think it's because it went into that goofy direction and not being like the other superhero shows. Because think about it, by this point, you got Flash, Arrow, and Supergirl, and Batwoman was on its way. Another straight-laced superhero show. Black Lightning was also airing around this time. Another very straight-laced, very focused on the racial dynamics of a black superhero. So you needed one show to be completely goofy just to kind of break it up. You don't need every show to be completely serious. And this is when it started breaking that mold of being, okay, we're going to be goofy now. We're going to find our own way of doing things instead of just being super serious, right? And that's where Legends is at its best. So there it is. So what are your thoughts on season 3 of Legends of Tomorrow? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.